are Anka. You can support us with the Super Thanks button below. What does it take to win a war? A strong army, brave soldiers, and the right leadership. But Russia has none of these. It turns out that Russian soldiers have a secret plan to surrender to Ukraine. Dozens of soldiers are surrendering every day in the Russian army after the Ukrainian army's moves. Russian commanders don't know what to do about the soldiers' surrender. Let's analyze the latest developments on the battlefield and why Russian soldiers surrendered. Anka News continues to reveal unknown details about the war. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry announced a very important development in the Russian army. This development caused outrage in Russia. Russian people are furious. According to the data shared by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, 6 Russian soldiers have decided to surrender to the Ukrainian army. There is a military base of the Russian army in the town of Chistopilya in Zaporizhia Oblast. Russian soldiers at this base decided to surrender to the Ukrainian army by making a secret plan. The soldiers secretly left the base and started to move away from the area. However, the Russian commander at the base realized that the soldiers were fleeing and got very angry. Seeing the Russian soldiers fleeing, the commander gave a very harsh order. The commander demanded that the soldiers fleeing the war be shot. 6 soldiers were killed in this shootout. Russian soldiers opened fire against their own comrades. This outraged everyone in Russia. Russian citizens are forcibly recruited into the army and taken to war. The fact that these soldiers are killed when they do not want to fight makes the Russian people even more angry against Putin. Until now, it was known that soldiers who wanted to surrender were executed in Russia. Russian commanders have done nothing to change this situation. Soldiers who revolt and want to stop fighting are constantly punished. But this is not working. The Ukrainian army has managed to liberate many areas occupied by Russia. Russian bases in these territories were inspected. Inside every Russian base, there was a dungeon for the punishment of rebel soldiers. In fact, when the Russian army fled from some bases, they left the soldiers in the dungeons. The Ukrainian army talked to Russian soldiers in the dungeons. Many of them were soldiers who were caught trying to escape from the base. As a result of the fact that many of the Russian soldiers wanted to surrender, the Ukrainian government took action. An extraordinary move was made in this regard. The interesting decision taken by the Ukrainian government completely changed the course of the war. Zelensky, a former comedian, has always tried unusual methods of communication. In this regard, he tried an unprecedented method and cornered Putin. This move of Zelensky left Putin helpless. So what was this extraordinary decision? The Ukrainian government launched an interesting project to help Russian soldiers who wanted to surrender. A website was launched as part of the I Want to Live project. This website contains information on what Russian soldiers who want to surrender should do. According to the Ukrainian government, more than 1,200,000 people have logged on to the website. Most of these entries were from Russia. Thousands of Russian soldiers surrendered to the Ukrainian army through this website. The Ukrainian government does not disclose the exact number of soldiers who surrendered, because this could lead to the disclosure of the surrendered soldiers. However, the Ukrainian government offers privacy to the soldiers who surrendered with this project. So how does this interesting project work? This project creates solutions for anyone who wants to get rid of Russia. It guarantees the safety of anyone who wants to surrender or seek refuge in Ukraine. Basically, it addresses 3 different groups. First, it explains what those who want to avoid the mobilization decision can do. There are many instructions and suggestions on how those who do not want to join the army can do so. The second section explains what can be done to avoid joining the army when the summons is received. It explains the way in which citizens who do not want to fight can avoid joining the army. The third chapter is the most interesting. This section answers the question how to surrender. Soldiers need to contact the Ukrainian government through this system or through the 24-hour I Want to Live hotline. After that, secret methods are put in place to plan a safe escape. The Russian government claimed that Russian soldiers going to Ukraine would be greeted with flowers and would never have to fight. However, the resistance of the Ukrainian army showed the whole world that what Putin said was a lie. The I Want to Live website addresses this issue too. The site tells Russian soldiers, "Do you see that you were greeted with no flowers but with fire and curses? Did you notice that the commanders fled first? Anyone who surrenders voluntarily will be declared a prisoner of war. This will protect all payments and benefits you will receive from the Russian army and protect you from possible persecution." The fact that anyone who surrenders in the Russian army will be considered a prisoner of war is a great opportunity for rebel soldiers, because these soldiers do not know how they will return to their country once they surrender. The Ukrainian government also announces on its website what it guarantees for the surrendered soldiers. The 5 promises offered by the Ukrainian government in this context are as follows. 1. Compliance with the Geneva Conventions on the treatment of prisoners of war. 2. Monitoring and assistance in the conditions of POWs stay by the International Committee of the Red Cross, and legal support from other international organizations. 3. 3 meals a day, medical care, regular contact with relatives. 4. Possibility of exchange with military personnel of the armed forces of Ukraine held captive in the Russian Federation. 5. Opportunity to apply for asylum in Ukraine or other European countries. These 5 items are very attractive offers for soldiers who do not want to fight in the Russian army. 3 meals a day and contact with relatives are especially important for Russian soldiers. Soldiers in the Russian army do not have regular meals and cannot meet their families. Soldiers who surrender to the Ukrainian army receive regular meals and treatment every day. Calling this hotline is also the best way for Russian soldiers to return home without any problems. There have been many prisoner exchanges between Russia and Ukraine. In these exchanges, the Ukrainian army sends surrendered Russian soldiers back to Russia. However, since the Russian government does not know which of these soldiers surrendered, it cannot impose any sanctions against them. The surrendered Russian soldiers are recognized as veterans when they return home. Thanks to this idea, dozens of soldiers in the Russian army continue to surrender to the Ukrainian army every day. Russian commanders can do nothing to prevent soldiers from surrendering. One website is foiling all Putin's plans. What do you think about the surrender of Russian soldiers? What do you think about the I Want to Live hotline set up by the Ukrainian army for surrendered soldiers? How many Russian soldiers do you think have surrendered since the beginning of the war? How do you think the surrender of Russian soldiers affects the course of the war? Share your views with us. Follow us for more updates. All rights to these videos belong to Anka Daily News YouTube channel. Our Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook usernames are @AnkaDailyNews. Do not rely on any other social media publications. We legally fight all websites and channels that use it without our permission.